Hey guys, and welcome back to Crochet College, or if this is your first time, welcome. My name is Mia, and in today's video, I am going to be showing you how I create this beautiful braided beanie. I originally created this design with an alpaca yarn, and at my previous show that I did, they completely sold out, and I was just doing a local craft fair. So I had my one that I kept on display because I always keep one for display in the event that I get a custom order. But the profit margin for this hat when I sold it, I was only making about $10 per beanie, and I didn't have any more materials to use the alpaca, and I didn't really want to go out and buy more because I have so much yarn. So in a previous video, I did a review of a recycled polyester yarn, which is what I am going to use today to make another version of the braided beanie. And it's soft, it's comparable. The only difference is it is not a natural fiber, which I've been trying to get to, but before I can buy more yarn, I really do have to use up what I have. So I have another show coming up at the end of the month, and I will be selling these using the recycled yarn. Something cool I did was I ordered a beautiful tag that has a recycled label on it, as well as my logo on the other side. For the alpaca one, it's just the logo on both sides, but for this one, I'm going to have that nice recycling label on it to show off the fact that this yarn is a completely recycled material. All that said, I purchased these amazing custom tags from Nerdpreneur Creations, so like Nerdpreneur instead of entrepreneur, Nerdpreneur. Absolutely love the product. I ordered 3 batches of tags, so I got the one that has the label on both sides, one side upside down, so that I had like this reversible label. I had one with the recycling symbol and the name of the shop, as well as one that's just a longer version of the tag with it written one way. The shop owner was incredible. She worked with me to create this awesome product that perfectly matches my logo, and now I can use it as my business card so that when people purchase a hat from me and they wonder where they could find me online, I say, oh, my shop name is right there on the tag. So it's a nice, unique little thing that you can do. I recommend it. I had a really good experience, and I love the product. So with all of that said, I'm very excited to show you guys how I create this wonderful pattern. So let's dive in. To make this project today, I'm using the following supplies. I have 1 ball of this Eco Brights yarn. I know it was a limited time only when I purchased this, but I bought a lot of it and I want to make a lot of these hats, so this was my go-to yarn for this project for that reason. But it is classified as a 5 bulky, so any 5 bulky could work to make this pattern. I have 2 different sized crochet hooks. I have a 5.5 millimeter and a 3.5 millimeter. The 5.5 millimeter will be used to create the body of the hat, and then the 3.5 millimeter is going to be used to create the brim. In addition to those supplies, I do have measuring tape, which can come in handy if you're making different sizes of the hats and you need to make sure that you've got your sizing right. A yarn needle to hide any of those loose ends, and then of course my scissors to trim the yarn at the end. A fun little optional addition to this hat is going to be a Faux Fur Pom Pom. I made this one. I don't have a video right now about how to make these, but if I post a video, I'll leave that link in the description box down below. They're super easy to make and totally worth it if you're going to make your own. I like to put them on a little wooden button so I can just pop it on when I want to wear it, or take it off if I want to rock the hat without the pom-pom. So I begin this project with my 5.5 millimeter crochet hook and my yarn at the ready. I start by creating a slip knot and then creating 4 chains. From here, I insert my hook into that first chain and make a slip knot so that I have a nice circle. The reason I start with this circle made of chains instead of using a magic ring is because I want a space to put a pom-pom at the end, and that creates a little buttonhole at the top of my hat. If you want yours to be completely closed, you can absolutely begin your project with a magic ring. Next, I'm going to chain 2 and work 12 double crochets right through the center of my circle. At the end of round 1, after I worked 12 double crochets into that circle, I insert my hook into the top of that chain 2 that I began this round with, and I work a slip knot. That completes round 1. For round 2, I'm going to chain 2 and work 2 double crochets into the top of each stitch from the previous round, totaling in 24 double crochets all the way around. Once I've finished my 24th double crochet, I'm going to insert my hook right into the top of that chain 2 that I started this round with and work a slip stitch to join. To begin round 3, I'm going to chain 2, work 2 double crochets into that first stitch, and then work 1 double crochet into the next stitch. I'm going to continue this pattern of 2 double crochets, 1 double crochet, all the way around, totaling in 36 double crochets. Once I've made my way all the way around for round 3, I'm going to insert my hook into the top of that chain 2 and slip stitch to join. I am now ready to begin round 4. For round 4, I will chain 2, work 2 double crochets into that first stitch, followed by 1 double crochet worked into the next 2 stitches. So that pattern is 2 double crochets, 1 double crochet, 1 double crochet. I'm going to continue that pattern all the way around until I reach the end of the round, totaling in 48 double crochets. Once I've gotten all the way around for round 4, I'm going to insert my hook into the top of the chain 2 that I started with and slip stitch to join. So now for here, this is where I am ending my increases. I've gotten the diameter of this circle to about 6 inches, and this yarn has a lot of stretch to it. So I am comfortable making a standard adult sized hat using this diameter. If you are not quite at this diameter yet, or if you want yours to be bigger or smaller, you can adjust accordingly by adding more rows, or rather more rounds or less rounds in the crown. So for round 5, I will be using a modified puff stitch all the way around. I'm going to chain 2 and skip the first stitch. I will then work a double crochet into the next stitch. After I've completed that double crochet, I'm going to work a puff stitch into that first space that I had skipped, that first stitch that I skipped. I'm yarning over, inserting my hook into that first stitch, pulling through once, yarning over, inserting my hook, pulling through twice, yarning over, inserting my hook, pulling through 3 times. If you want your puffs to look bigger, you could do additional yarn overs. I'm only doing 3. From here, I'm going to yarn over and pull through, and that completes the puff stitch. I'll show that one more time. I'm going to skip the next stitch and work a double crochet into the following stitch. I'm then going to yarn over, insert my hook into that space or that chain that I skipped, yarn over, pull through once, yarn over, pull through twice, yarn over, pull through 3 times to make the puff, yarn over and pull through. So you can see that it kind of makes this angled puff stitch. I'm going to continue that pattern of skipping a stitch, working a double crochet, then working a puff stitch through the previous stitch that we skipped. I'll continue working that all the way around, totaling in 24 of these puff stitches, but it's still 48 total stitches around. So you'll have 24 double crochets that are hidden by these 24 puff stitches. Once I've made my way all the way around, I am simply going to insert my hook into the top of that chain 2 that I began with and slip stitch to join. Now from For round 6, I am going to do basically a repeat of round 5. However, I'm going to chain 2 and turn my work around. So now I'm working from the back side of the hat, or from the inside of the hat. And I'm going to do the exact same thing that I did in round 5, just the other way. I'm going to skip the first stitch, work a double crochet into the next stitch, and then work a puff stitch into the previous stitch. Then I'm going to pull through and repeat that process all the way around, where I'm skipping a stitch, working a double crochet, going back a stitch, and working that puff stitch. And I will continue this pattern all the way around until I have a total of my 48 stitches or my 24 puff stitches, however you want to look at it. Once I've gone all the way around with those puff stitches, I am going to complete round 6 by inserting my hook into the top of that chain 2 that I began with and slip stitching to join. Now from here, my hat is starting to take shape. It's starting to get to that kind of bowed or rounded effect at the top. For my next row, I'm going to chain 1 and turn. So now I have the right side facing out. I'm going to insert my hook into the top of each stitch and work 1 half double crochet. So if you're not familiar with this stitch, a half double crochet is yarning over, inserting your hook into the stitch, pulling up 1 time, yarning over, and pulling through all 3 loops that are on your hook. So I will work a total of 48 half double crochets all the way around. Once I've worked my way all the way around for round 7, I'm just going to insert my hook into the top of that first chain and slip stitch to join, completing round 7. Now the next 3 rounds, rounds 8, 9, and 10, are going to be exactly the same as rounds 5, 6, and 7. I'm going to do the puff stitch going one way, then the modified puff stitch going the other way, and then turning back to the right side of the work and doing that round of half double crochets. So I'm going to repeat those 3 rounds and meet you guys at the end of round 10. Once I've gotten all the way around the work with half double crochets at the end of round 10, I am ready to slip stitch to join just by inserting my hook into the top of that chain 1 that I began with. And now I have finished the body of the hat and I'm ready to move on to the brim. I make the brim of the hat not with the 5.5mm crochet hook, but with the 3.5mm crochet hook. And what I do is I remove the 5.5mm hook and leave the open circle, then insert the 3.5mm. I then chain 7. After my chain 7, I will chain 2 extra. And now I'm kind of going to be working rows up along this chain. So in the 3rd chain from the hook, I'm going to work a half double crochet. And then I will continue working a half double crochet in each chain across that chain that I made, totaling in 7 half double crochets. Now as I work these rows up along the brim, I'm going to be slip stitching back onto the crown. So in the 3rd loop, which is not the top front or top back, but there's this extra little loop on the back side of that half double crochet, I will work a slip stitch. And then in the 2nd half double crochet from that last round, or round 10, in that same 3rd loop, I'm going to slip stitch again. So I worked 7 half double crochets and then 2 slip stitches. I'm now going to turn my work, yarn over, and work a half double crochet into the 3rd loop from the previous row that I did. So I'm going to total in 7 half double crochets worked down this row. After I've made those 7 half double crochets to kind of be a row 2 of the brim, I'm going to chain 2 and turn my work. Now you can see working in that third loop creates this beautiful ridge, almost like a ribbing that you would get from knitted or from a knitted hat. So after I've chained 2, that chain 2 does not count as a half double crochet. I'm going to yarn over, insert my hook through the third loop of the previous row. So I'm not going through the front loop or the back loop. I'm going through that kind of third loop there. And I'm going to work 7 half double crochets. So once I've finished those 7 half double crochets along the brim, I'm ready to work a slip stitch through the third loop of the next half double crochets that you can see from the last round that I did of the body of the hat. So I'm going to continue working those half double crochets on the brim and connecting them up by slip stitching into 2 stitches on the crown as I go. Now I'm working a total of 1 row of half double crochets for each stitch around the body. So for me, I should have a total of 48 rows of the half double crochets going around the brim. So I'm going to continue working up these rows for the brim all the way around, and I will meet you guys after I finish my last round, or my last row of the brim. So once I've finished all of the rows of the brim, you can see how working those slip stitches through the third loop really makes this beautiful trim of this little like rib. I personally really love that look, and I think it hides any imperfections that might exist where those slip stitches were placed. So after I finished the last row of that brim, all we're going to do is slip stitch the final row with the first row. I first chain 2. I find by doing that chain 2, it creates this very similar little bump that exists throughout the rest of the brim. And then what I'm going to do here is slip stitch through the back loop of the row that I just did, and then slip stitch all the way through the foundation chain. You could also use a sewing needle if you're more comfortable sewing this edge closed. I just like slip stitching. I find it's an easier thing for me to do. So once I've slip stitched all these together, I will then finish off the work, leaving a nice long tail. So this is the whole hat, which I absolutely love. It's got a lot of nice give and stretch to it, and I like the way that the ribbing on the bottom kind of pulls the hat into almost this little puffy shape. So using my yarn needle, I'm going to hide that tail, and the way that I like to do that is by pulling it through to the inside of the hat, and then from the inside I will just pull it right underneath a line of stitches. So it's nice and hidden in there. I don't pull it too tight because I don't want it to bunch up the brim at all. And I just snip the end and I leave that little fuzz there. I find it gets pulled into the hat and nobody ever notices it. So you could absolutely finish your hat like this and leave it as is. But one thing that I'm going to do is add this beautiful tag. I love this tag so much. I know I mentioned the shop in the beginning. If you haven't gone to check it out, please do. I love the quality of these tags. I love that they've got a nice soft feel, and it's got my perfect logo on it in exactly the font that I like to use, as well as she did this beautiful custom recycling symbol just for my recycled hats, because I don't know if you guys noticed, but the yarn that we're using today is made from 100% recycled polyester. So I like having this beautiful recycling label hanging out on the side there. So I just stitch on the tag using my yarn needle, and I like to do it so that I've got kind of 2 little things coming off of the tag on each side. I think that really helps it look nice and put together. From here, I simply tie 2, or like really a box knot, or even sometimes like a triple knotted little thing, and I make sure to position my knotting so that it's underneath the tag, and then I just trim it. I like doing it this way too because if somebody doesn't want the tag once they purchase the item from me, they could simply cut the tag off with one little snip. And with that, I have completed this look. Again, I left that hole for my pom-pom, which I'll attach now so we can see the finished product. So I made my pom-pom with a little button, which makes it perfectly removable for washing. And just slide it through the buttonhole. Perfect, I love it. And I just realized that the one thing I forgot to show you guys, which I'll show you now, is since I did not use a magic ring, I don't really have to worry about this tail. I did kind of bury it in that first row as I crocheted, so I just cut off the end, and now my hat is totally finished. All right, you guys, so I cannot stress enough how much I love this design. I think it's just beautiful with all of that detail that you get from the modified puff stitch. And they're pretty quick to work up. They take me between a half hour to 45 minutes, depending on if I do them all in one sitting, like I did for this hat for the video, or if I do them like in an assembly line where I make the circles for the crown, and then I work up all the bodies, and then I do up all the brims. It's beautiful, it's stretchy, and it's comfortable. So this yarn is a polyester. It's very soft. Definitely the alpaca is better. So I always recommend if you're going to make a product, use a natural fiber. I think that's why these sold so well, is they're so soft and they're natural fiber. But I think there is value to that recycling piece that I'm going to be putting out there at my next show with this recycled line. So I hope you enjoy this. I hope you make some of your own, and please share. So if you make some for an event, let me know how they do, and keep me posted. Have a great day, you guys. Bye.